Gregory Peck walked into the auditorium at the University of Alabama on a spring afternoon in 1963, 3 weeks after winning the Academy Award for playing Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, and saw something that made him stop cold at the stage entrance. A young black student was standing at the door being turned away by security. The guard was shaking his head. The student was arguing quietly, holding what looked like a ticket. And Gregory, who just spent months playing a lawyer who defended justice in the face of hatred, had a choice to make. Walk onto that stage and give his speech to a crowd of 800 people, or do what Atticus Finch would have done. Gregory didn't hesitate. He walked over to the guard and said 6 words that silenced the entire auditorium. Either he comes in or I leave. What happened in the next 10 minutes didn't just change that university. It proved that Gregory Peck hadn't been acting when he played a hero. He was one. It was April 18, 1963. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the University of Alabama. Gregory Peck was 47 years old and at the absolute pinnacle of his career. 3 weeks earlier, on April 8th, he'd stood on the stage at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium and accepted the Academy Award for Best Actor for playing Atticus Finch, the small-town lawyer in Depression-era Alabama who defended a black man falsely accused of rape, who stood up to a lynch mob, who taught his children that courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway. The movie had become a phenomenon. It wasn't just a film, it was a moral statement. Released in December 1962, right in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement, To Kill a Mockingbird had resonated with millions of Americans who were watching their country tear itself apart over race. Gregory's performance as Atticus had become iconic, dignified, principled, brave. People saw Atticus Finch as the embodiment of moral courage, and they saw Gregory Peck as Atticus. After winning the Oscar, Gregory had been flooded with speaking requests. Universities wanted him to talk about the film, about its message, about what it meant in 1963 America. Gregory had accepted several. He felt a responsibility. The film had given him a platform. He wanted to use it. When the University of Alabama invited him to give a lecture on cinema and social conscience, Gregory said yes. Even though he knew Alabama was a powder keg, even though he knew Governor George Wallace had just given his infamous Segregation Forever speech, even though he knew that bringing a liberal Hollywood actor to speak at a Southern university about social issues was asking for trouble. Gregory flew into Birmingham the day before, spent the night at a hotel. The next morning, he was driven the 60 miles to Tuscaloosa. The university had arranged everything. Big event, Foster Auditorium, 800 seats, mostly students, some faculty, local press. It was supposed to be a triumph. Gregory Peck, Oscar winner, returning to Alabama to talk about the movie set in Alabama that had won him the Oscar. When Gregory arrived at the auditorium, the dean of students met him, a nervous man in his 50s who kept mopping his forehead with a handkerchief. "Mr. Peck, we're thrilled to have you. The students are very excited. We have a full house. I just want to brief you on a few things before we begin." Gregory nodded. "Of course." The dean led him backstage. "The university has certain policies. Given the current climate, we're trying to maintain order, prevent any incidents. I'm sure you understand." Gregory's expression didn't change. "What kind of policies?" The dean shifted uncomfortably. "Well, for instance, we're not permitting Negro students to attend today's lecture. It's for their own safety, really. Things are very tense right now. We don't want any trouble." Gregory stopped walking. "You're not allowing black students to attend?" The dean nodded quickly. "It's temporary, just until things calm down. We're trying to protect everyone. I'm sure you understand the delicate situation we're in." Gregory's jaw tightened. "I understand that you're preventing students from attending a lecture at their own university because of the color of their skin." The dean looked panicked. "Mr. Peck, please. This is a difficult time. We have to be practical. If we allow Negro students in, there could be protests, violence. We're trying to avoid that." Gregory's voice was quiet but steel hard. "By excluding them?" The dean nodded. "For now, yes." Gregory looked at him for a long moment. "How many black students tried to attend today?" The dean hesitated. "I don't know the exact number. A few. They were informed at the door." Gregory turned and walked toward the stage entrance. The dean followed, still talking nervously. "Mr. Peck, the students are waiting. We're on a tight schedule. Perhaps we could discuss this after." Gregory reached the stage entrance. Through the curtain, he could see the packed auditorium, 800 students waiting to hear him speak. And at the main entrance, about 50 yards away, he could see a security guard standing with his arms crossed. And standing in front of the guard, arguing, was a young black man, maybe 20 years old, wearing a suit and tie, holding something in his hand. The guard was shaking his head. Gregory turned to the dean. "Who's that?" The dean glanced over. "Just a student who's confused about the policy. Security is handling it." Gregory started walking toward the entrance. The dean grabbed his arm. "Mr. Peck, please, we need to start the lecture." Gregory pulled his arm free and kept walking. As he got closer, he could hear the conversation. The student's voice was calm but frustrated. "I have a ticket. I'm enrolled here. I have every right to attend this lecture." The guard's voice was flat. "Not today, you don't. Orders from administration. No colored students today." The student saw Gregory approaching. His eyes widened. "Mr. Peck." Gregory walked right up to them. "What's your name, son?" The student straightened. "Samuel. Samuel Jackson." Gregory extended his hand. Samuel shook it, clearly stunned. Gregory looked at the guard. "Why isn't this young man being allowed in?" The guard looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Peck, I'm just following orders. No Negro students today. Administration's decision." Gregory looked at the ticket in Samuel's hand. "Is that ticket valid?" Samuel nodded. "Yes, sir. I bought it 3 weeks ago. Waited in line for 2 hours to get it." Gregory turned to the dean who'd followed him. "This young man has a valid ticket. He's a student at this university. And you're not letting him attend a public lecture?" The dean was sweating profusely now. "Mr. Peck, I explained the situation. We're trying to prevent trouble." Gregory looked around. The lobby was full of students now. Everyone had stopped to watch what was happening. You could hear a pin drop. Gregory's voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "The only trouble I see is a young man being denied his rights. Now, I was invited here to talk about To Kill a Mockingbird, a film about a man who stood up for what was right even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous. I can't very well give that speech while standing in front of a young man who's being told he can't come in because of his skin color." The dean was panicking now. "Mr. Peck, please, be reasonable. We have 800 people waiting. This is a major event." Gregory's voice was calm. "Then let's make it an even bigger event. Let Samuel in. Let any other black students who want to attend come in, or I don't speak." The silence in the lobby was absolute. Every student was staring. The guard was frozen. The dean looked like he might faint. "Mr. Peck, you can't be serious. We have protocols, university policy. The governor..." Gregory cut him off. "I don't care about the governor. I care about doing what's right. Samuel has a ticket. He gets in. That's not negotiable." The dean looked around desperately. "This will cause a scandal. The board will be furious. The alumni..." Gregory stepped closer to the dean. His voice dropped, but everyone could still hear it. "I just won an Academy Award for playing a man who stood up to hatred and ignorance. If I walk onto that stage and give a speech about moral courage while a black student is standing outside the door, I'm a hypocrite. Is that what you want? Is that the story you want in tomorrow's newspapers?" The dean was trapped and he knew it. If he didn't let Samuel in, Gregory would leave. The lecture would be canceled. The university would look terrible. If he did let Samuel in, there would be backlash from segregationists. But at least the lecture would happen. The dean looked at Samuel, then at Gregory, then at all the watching students. Finally, he nodded to the guard. "Let him in." The guard stepped aside. Samuel stood there for a moment, not quite believing it. Gregory put his hand on Samuel's shoulder. "Come on, son, let's find you a seat." They walked into the auditorium together. 800 students watched them enter. Some started clapping. Others sat in shocked silence. Gregory led Samuel to a seat in the third row. "This seems like a good spot." Samuel sat down, his hands shaking. "Mr. Peck, I don't know what to say." "Thank you," Gregory smiled. "Don't thank me. You had every right to be here. I just made sure that right was respected." He walked up onto the stage. The auditorium was buzzing. Everyone was talking about what had just happened. Gregory stood at the podium and waited for silence. When the room finally quieted, he spoke. "Good afternoon, I'm Gregory Peck. 3 weeks ago, I won an Academy Award for playing Atticus Finch, a lawyer in a small Alabama town who defended what was right even when it was unpopular. Today, I almost didn't give this speech because I saw a young man being denied entry to hear me speak about that character. A young man who had every right to be here, but was being told he couldn't come in because of his skin color. You could hear people shifting in their seats. Now I could have walked away, could have gotten in my car and gone back to California. But then I thought about Atticus, about what he would do, and I realized that if I'm going to talk about courage and principle, I better be willing to show some. So I told your administration that either that young man came in or I wasn't speaking. And here we are." Gregory paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "Some of you are probably angry right now. Some of you think I had no right to make demands. Some of you think that young man shouldn't be here. But let me tell you something. In 20 years, you're going to look back on this moment, and you're going to remember that you were here the day someone drew a line and said no more. You're going to remember Samuel Jackson sitting in that third row. And you're going to have to decide what side of history you were on." He gave his speech. 45 minutes about cinema, about social responsibility, about how art can change minds and hearts. But everyone in that room knew the real speech had happened in the lobby, when a movie star had put his reputation on the line for a principal. The students gave him a standing ovation. Not everyone stood, maybe 2/3, but that was more than anyone expected in Alabama in 1963. After the speech, Gregory found Samuel outside the auditorium. "How are you doing, Samuel?" Samuel looked overwhelmed. "I still can't believe that happened, that you did that for me." Gregory shook his head. "I didn't do it for you. I did it because it was right. You would have done the same thing." Samuel was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Peck, can I ask you something?" Gregory nodded. "When you were playing Atticus Finch, did you know you were going to have to live up to him?" Gregory smiled. "No, but I'm glad I do, because that character taught me something. That courage isn't just something you show in front of a camera. It's something you show every day, in every choice you make. Today was one of those choices. Stories like this one deserve to be remembered. The moments when legends proved they were more than their roles. The stands taken when it would have been easier to walk away. If you want to hear more stories about the people who shaped an era, the courage shown when cameras weren't rolling, and the humanity that changed history, this channel tells those stories. Because these aren't just tales about famous people, they're lessons about standing up when it matters. The story made national news. Gregory Peck refuses speech until black student admitted. The Southern press attacked him, called him an outside agitator, said he was disrespecting Southern traditions. The Northern press praised him, called him courageous, said he embodied Atticus Finch. Gregory didn't care about either. He just went back to California and kept working. Samuel Jackson graduated from the University of Alabama in 1965, went to law school, became a civil rights attorney, spent 40 years fighting for justice in Alabama courts. And in his office for his entire career, he kept a photograph. It was from that day in 1963. Gregory Peck and Samuel Jackson walking into Foster Auditorium together. Under it, a quote from Atticus Finch. "Courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what." Gregory Peck died in 2003. He was 87 years old. At his funeral, hundreds of people came to pay respects. Actors, directors, politicians. But Samuel Jackson, who was 60 by then, came too. He didn't speak, didn't give a eulogy, just stood quietly in the back. After the service, a reporter asked him what Gregory Peck had meant to him. Samuel thought for a long time. Then he said, "He showed me that heroes aren't just in movies, that sometimes when it matters, someone will stand up for you, even when they don't have to." Mr. Peck didn't just play a hero, he was one. And I spent my whole life trying to be worthy of what he did that day. That's the Gregory Peck story that should be told. Not just the actor with the commanding presence, not just the star who won an Oscar, but the man who walked away from a stage full of people to stand with one student who was being denied his rights. The man who said either he comes in or I leave, and meant it. The man who understood that playing a hero on screen means nothing if you're not willing to be one in real life. Gregory Peck had a choice that day: give his speech and ignore injustice, or risk everything to do what was right. He chose right, without hesitation. And Samuel Jackson never forgot it. None of them did. Because that's what real courage looks like. Not in a courtroom in a movie, but in a lobby in Alabama, when one man says no more and means it.